It was
Oh,
wonderful.
they don't make them
I know,
anymore.
I know.
And
I have
are
the
you-
same one.
You're okay if we go on Facebook Live?
Sure. This is one of the first times I've played.
Okay, so we are now people can hear us.
Oh, okay.
And so you said you're okay with the audio recording.
Sure.
Any pictures I take, the videos, I will put into Dropbox and then
Okay.
share a link with you. You can do anything you want with
Okay.
them. I have other cameras I may pull out from time to time and take some photos.
Oh, yeah. Great.
I'll put all that in a folder, and you can do anything you want with it. It's
Thank you.
yours.
Thank you. Boy, you
it's
make
the-
this so easy.
Well, we tried to. That's the goal, right?
So we're on live. We're on Facebook Live now.
We are on Facebook Live, and that's over here from this angle.
Okay.
And then I'm going to keep you on mic 2, use mic 1 to kind of capture a little more towards the guitar.
Yep.
I just tell people, do your thing. Let me worry about how loud it is or if I need to make an adjustment. Just do your thing.
I will. And you will.
God willing.
Maybe we'll make Patrick sit over here and he can sing some harmonies.
Well, there you go. Does he know he's doing that?
No.
Okay, so we are also recording. So we're good there. So we're going to go in about 10 seconds. Microphones are hot. And speaking of Nick Kazernis, I am happy to tell you Nick is here in the studio. Thank you so much, Nick, for coming in.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
So we were just chatting off air about Nick's music and the music that he's working on that comes out. Is that end of the week or is that Thursday?
It is sometime soon. A little bit, a little bit vague at this point.
So I'm joking, of course, and you're all like, "Yay, yay!" No, he's not there. He's not there
Like,
yet.
did I send you these tracks? Oh, no. Are these out?
Yeah, I'm clearly
Did I
blind.
push the button?
Yeah, that's right. You didn't realize you sent that to me. I've got them queued
It's
up to
already
play.
queued
Is
up.
that
Now
a
I see
problem?
them.
Is
Yes,
that a
I
problem?
see. It's too late now.
If you don't know Nick Kazernis, you probably know some of the songs like Tell Me Tomorrow, The Distance, from his terrific record, The Distance. Nick Kazernis is a musician that we have been fortunate to bump into each other at shows. I gotta say, Nick, it's a real joy to have you here in the studio.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's great. Thank you for having me. This is really great. My first time in the UD radio station in many, many years. It looks like it's in good hands and sounds awesome. So thank you.
Well, let's start at the beginning. If someone doesn't know you and your music,
Okay.
let's start there. How did you get started making music?
When I was barely in high school, I had picked up the guitar and just couldn't stop playing it. And pretty soon, my friend John Dubuck, a great songwriter I went to school with, he was doing the same thing. And so we were going through Beatles albums and then pretty soon going through Replacements albums and Ramones albums. And we formed a band when we were 14 years old, learning how to play, by learning how to play cover songs of Beatles and then pretty soon The Clash. And we just decided, we played a friend's party and then we're like, do you think we could play a show? And it turns out we could. So we were able to play a show. I think we were 15 years old. We played Canal Street. And
Wow.
Mick Montgomery was like on a Wednesday night and then he kept bringing us back. Like he just kept booking us over and over again on these weeknights, and then pretty soon he'd book us to open for other bands on the weekends, like the Highwaymen, Troy Campbell, Mark Patterson's band, The Pleasure's Pale, Louis Lerma's band. All of these groups that were playing around that time, it was like a really big scene, Guided by Voices, Robert Pollard. They just kept putting us on the bill, and then pretty soon we met Jim Carter. And Jim Carter helped. He added us to bands like DOA and Camper Van Beethoven, and that was working with Jerry Gelati at Jilly's. And pretty soon we were putting a record out with Gary King, or Jim was putting out a record with Gary King, and it just kind of kept going. And all that time, John was just writing songs, and we were trying to learn how to be in a band. And travel and and record, and it just kept going, and we still do it to this day, although in different ways, right? Over the years.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
But that's how it started.
Well, I'm curious, as the young 15-year-old who got a guitar, right? Was it like a gift from a friend or a parent?
I think I was 13 when I got the guitar, maybe 12 or 13. I got the guitar because you could learn guitar in music class, and John was already playing guitar, but Greg Johnson and I, he ended up playing bass in the Obvious. That was our band. We just all started learning how to play our E chord, and I just found that I couldn't stop, and I just kept messing with it, and it's like to this day I feel like, I mean, it's probably not true that I play guitar every day, but I feel like I've played guitar just about every day since I was 12, and I'm still hoping to be better at it someday.
It almost sounds like a force of magnetism, like you were drawn to it when you started playing, that you felt the need to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely, and I still have that today. I still hear, like, that instrument in particular. I mean, music in general, but that instrument in particular, I still hear so many things that just make my head spin, and that I want to know and understand. And I think that's really what got it when I started knowing how to. And then and that sounded like one of my dad's Johnny Cash albums, and I was like, and then I had to figure it out, and that's still what it is. I could never figure everything out perfectly. I could never play like the Van Halen stuff or anything, but I could get the feel of a lot of different things, and then that just became part of what I did, right?
Yeah.
Was figuring stuff out and then incorporating it into songs and bands.
Well, at what point do you move from, experimenting and playing with the guitar, learning the instrument, to writing your own stuff?
Well, we did start writing songs really early.
So right away.
Yeah, it was right away, but we didn't necessarily know much of what we were doing, right? They were like Beatles influenced, Ramones influenced, kind of, but I think for me it was like, it took a while. I think I probably wrote a couple songs over a couple years or a few years. It took I had to start accumulating some things in my head before, like, I could turn those into ideas that became songs. Like, it's like it took a while, and even then after that it took a while.
Yeah.
And now I realize it's taken a while. It's taken a long while.
Well, one might say, a lifetime.
A lifetime.
But what a wonderful experiment, or what a wonderful adventure to create music, right? Out of the ideas in your head and the sounds that you hear, to create something new.
It is. Oh yeah, that's a great way to describe it. It is. I mean, it's also, there's always, I think, what you hear, or what I hear, I guess, in my head is always a little bit ahead of what I can do.
What do you mean when you say ahead?
Well, I think I hear things that are like I might play a song like, but I might hear something that's like more like, I don't know, maybe it's a little more complicated, or it's a little different, not as straightforward as what that was.
Right.
And I can't quite figure it out, but I just always want to. So I'm continually listening to people and trying to figure out what is it that they did. And it's sort of like in a weird combination of, like, I'm writing this like punk rock song, but I'm trying to figure out what Rufus Wainwright did on that Release the Stars album, and what that chord changes were. And I think there's a lot of songwriters, like Costello, I think, is a good example, and Nick Lowe's another good example of where their songwriting sort of developed and got, I don't know, I mean, matured, whatever the words are, where it just kind of grew a little bit, but still they retained kind of like a lot of that raw. And I'm really like excited about, like, I always want to figure out, like, well, what's like I finally got one of those diminished chords into one of my songs. I was like, yeah, and it was like, victory, and then everyone who's been recording with me is like, oh, nice diminished chord, but it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to do, and it's exciting. And I have to say, having written songs for a few years, it's probably more exciting now than it's ever been. Yeah. And maybe that's because I've learned a few things, but the more I learn, the more I realize, I have a lot to learn.
Well, and maybe that's part of what keeps you engaged in it, right? That there's always more to discover. There's more to learn. I'm curious if you ever reached a point where you're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. This is frustrating, and I feel like I'm trying to accomplish or reach something I can't do. Is that something you've ever experienced, that level of frustration?
Art, that's something I always experience. Yeah, I think that happens with everyone who's just working on, like, whether they're discovering stuff or writing stuff or they've been writing stuff, is like you kind of maybe hit a wall or you hit plateau, and what they are is they're actually plateaus. And it's like I've never. It's taken me a long time to even appreciate that. Like maybe a plateau isn't so bad because it means you've kind of learned a certain level. But it has resulted in me stopping and not pushing through and trying harder, which is something now I don't. I have a different approach now, but that used to be my approach, and also of just abandoning things and doing something completely different, which has been good, to like change styles completely. And that's been really the way my groups of bands have been my whole life, is they just keep changing styles as I just keep trying different things. But it took me a really long time to say, like when it gets tough to say, okay, well, that doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means that you might need to go a different way. And the result is exactly what you said. It's like, I'm not going to do this, which is a shame. But I mean, I think that's probably, we all probably experience that. So, so I know I'm not saying I still do, but now I've kind of come up with ways to sort of work through that, to say, well, that you're not, maybe it's a bad song. And actually, sometimes it's just a bad song. And it's like the sooner you can get over that, the better. Right.
So finish with the song that you're not going to work on or isn't going to make it onto an album or something like that. And there's this other idea buzzing in your brain that actually becomes a song that you want to pursue.
Actually, that's very good, because sometimes it's like, this isn't a great song, I just need to finish it. Even if it's a minute long, just finish the idea so you can have resolution, because otherwise it can stick. Right? And then a lot of times those things will end up being a song that then turns into another song, Similar to that, I went to it was a songwriting workshop I went to where you had like 5 minutes to write a song.
Yikes.
And then you had to do things like use different instruments, and you had to, it was all just a creative exercise, right? And those ended up being ideas that they weren't very good, but they were useful to think of other things, to get so just cool exercises. So maybe sometimes these things are exercises, right? And I keep hearing that, like, people have, you write 100 bad songs to get a good one. And I'm like, okay. all right.
Well, by the time you get to number 99, you're like, can't this be the good?
Nope. What rhymes with kite?
But the first thing in my head was might, and I'm like,
yep. Use that one earlier in the other verse. Can't use it again. So.
See, I'm no help. I'm no help for you, Nick. If you're just joining us, you're listening to your Tuesday afternoon alternative here on WUDR Dayton. Rockin' the Gem City, music in all directions, support your local music scene. I am so thrilled. My guest this week is Nick Kazernis, who has been making terrific music in Dayton for quite some time. His 2020 album, The Distance, in my mind, was one of, that's right, I did 20 best ofs for 2020. It's okay, dear listener, you can judge me. Goodness knows I judged myself at the alliteration. It's like, we're talking about making things fit. I apparently had so many great albums, and The Distance I thought was a phenomenal record, Nick.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
And I know we talked a bit off air about it. You worked with some amazing musicians in putting that record together. I know you've got some songs you're going to play live, but could you tell us a little bit about making The Distance and then play something for us?
Sure, yeah, I could do that, and then maybe we'll even play The Distance. Maybe that'll be the
shocker.
Yeah, I think that's right. Is that what you're hinting? So that record started back in, I think, 2017. I started writing songs. I had been collecting a lot of songs, but I wasn't playing a lot at all. I was doing everything but playing music, here and there, but not very much. And it was really gnawing at me. And I had some song ideas. I wasn't that happy with them. I wasn't singing them very well. And I just thought, what if I just really, my first idea was it was going to be a country album. And
really?
I was like, it was going to be a country album, and murder ballads. That's what it was going to be. But I was like, I don't know, and of course that never works out the way. And I just started writing these songs, and some of them were moving along, and some of them were just really raw, but they were all there, and I just kind of doubled down and said, I'm going to really work on this, and it's not just going to be inspiration. Yeah, it's just like, I'm actually going to try to like fine tune these things and make them work. And I ran into, and I was reading Andrea Stoppel. She's a songwriter, just like writes in Nashville and does this thing. So she had put out some like workbooks about stuff, and I was kind of reading on that, and just anything to kind of help like. And I started a more regular practice of getting up really early in the morning and writing these songs, and they weren't attached to a band. And that was actually a really big thing, because everything I'd ever done before was attached to a band, and this wasn't. And now I had nothing. So all I had was me, and and I was playing the guitar. And so these songs started to form, but I didn't know, like I didn't feel comfortable singing them. Like I wasn't happy with how I was singing. Things weren't clicking.
Like you're thinking your voice just doesn't fit the song.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know if I'm singing these songs, and I don't know what that means. I don't know what to do. But I did get the idea that maybe I don't sing these songs, And at the same time, around that time, Mark Patterson, a friend of mine who was in the Highwaymen in the 80s, he moved to Austin and was a session drummer for all those years. Recently joined Sunvolt, played with Billy Joe Shaver and Robert Earl Keen, and was a session musician, and was a session musician for songwriters. He was staying in Dayton for a while, and he's like, let's work on it. So we got together and started working on all of my songs, and he helped me arrange them and tighten them up and help them flow, and the way he played the drums was just, it really served the song. And we would do these like very short rehearsals where we just work on one song, and we'd get a version of it, I'd record it, and then I'd start doing demos and things, like on top, like on the computer, like just basics. And then it started happening. It started sounding like it was going to be a thing. So at the time, Patrick Himes, who runs Real Love, and I've known Real Love Recording Studios, known Patrick for a while. I mentioned I was writing. He's like, you should just come in and record a song. Don't worry about an album. Just record a song. Just do it. You've never done it before. And it's true. I've never recorded just a song, right? And so everything kind of started rolling, and that's when I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I feel like I need to have kind of like a team of people or something. And I was having such a great time working with Mark. I'm like, how else could this happen? So I made a couple calls, and one of them was like, I knew if I called Todd Widener, if he was available, like Todd, like I knew. One of the things was, it wasn't just my voice, it was the way I was playing, and the stuff I was wanting in the songs, it wasn't coming across. And I knew I could get my ideas, I could sketch them out, and I could hand them to Todd, and then maybe he could like flesh them out and turn them into something, if he was up for it, which he was. So that was great. And then at that point, I had realized that I'm like, it's not necessarily my voice, and it's not even a male voice. Like, I don't even know if it's a male or female voice. I don't know. And the songs aren't meant to be sung male or female. But anyway, got to that point of like, well, what if, and it was just like, what if we just tried this? We're just going to do a song, right? And so I asked Kate about it, and we were like, okay, let's see what happens. And as it turned out, it was 2 songs. And Mark and I worked out the songs. We went and recorded them with Todd. And I will say this, Todd, in case but I kind of give these demos to Todd, and I'm sure he listened to them and was like, chuck them, and came in, and he had worked out these beautiful parts for a song called The Beginning, and a song called Come Back to Me. And we recorded those songs, and Patrick would later record the bass, and then he would add keyboards, never intended for those songs, never intended for those songs, but he's like, I hear something, and he added that to it, and we did that session. And then Patrick and I came back in the next day or something, and Kate came up and sang those 2 songs, and it was like, oh my gosh, we have, and it's what those 2 songs sound like. They were, I mean, Patrick later told me it was like the mixing was quite easy to do because of the way that we recorded, and everything just laid out so nicely. But so like that, what you hear on the record is like what it felt like that day. It was very fresh, I think so. So it was so that was, at that point, by the time we had gotten there, the next set of songs were well on their way. And Mark was going on tour. He was going on and off tour. He'd come back. He'd work on stuff. we'd get the sessions. Kate was on tour. Kate would come back. She would come in and sing a few songs, and we did that in 3 sets until beginning of 2019 is when the record was done. Probably actually spring 2019. The record was done at that point, and then you mix, and then it took a few months to put out. But yeah, and it was a really great experience, even though we weren't all together. Patrick was so good at kind of coaching me through, making me feel comfortable. And everyone was so good about how they played that I actually I for the first time took a big step back and was like letting everyone else play. And I play plenty of guitar on the record. And Crazy Joe Tritchler came in and played a couple songs, as well, because we wanted that kind of this. Well, actually, we wanted his feel. He's such a distinctive player, but then we gave him a bunch of rules to keep him from playing the way he normally played. So, and again, it was just us kind of seeing where we could go, right? So it's like for, Mark was, obviously that was Mark's thing, right? And for Todd too, but it was, kind of getting into a little bit different stuff. For Kate, it was a very different style. Mm-hmm. For me, it was a different style. For Patrick, it was a different style, and so we had to make sure Joe had to play it a little differently too. But it was a really great experience of recording that way. Yeah, it was amazing.
Well, and I'm so curious because all your previous music, right? It's your voice. You're playing with it with another guy. Male voices, mm-hmm. And with this album, she adds a dimension, not just because of the kind of different vocal approach, but her texture as a singer, right, is amazing.
Yes, yeah. She's a brilliant singer. She's my favorite singer in the world, and I was really. Just really impressed by all the lung recordings, but really all her solo recordings that she had done, and just like what she was doing in terms of how communicating the songs, right? And so I was like, okay, what's going to happen here, And I think that brought out a lot of nuances and feelings and message in the songs that where I was just, very happy about that, very excited to hear those emerge out of the songs in ways that I didn't even expect. And then once we start laying the backup vocals and the oohs and all of that, it was really exciting. It was great. It was really inspiring as someone who wants to sing. Yeah. I was really inspired by that too, to like, oh, okay, I can kind of learn how to sing my songs now because I have a great guy here. But I was really excited about how it turned out. Much, much more, I think, with that, what everyone brought to it, it went way beyond what I thought it would. So I can say that if I didn't release anything else, I'm like, yep. I did that. I'm very happy. I'm very happy.
You hold up that one.
I'm really happy I did it. So there's always things you listen to it, and there's always things you can do. But it was a great experience.
Well, even though I absolutely adore the record, have you ever thought of like releasing a version where you're singing the lead?
So there are versions of those songs with me singing, because I would sing the reference, like as a reference track, and it was funny. Just like my guitar tracks, I would send to Todd. Todd would be like, and Kate would come in and we'd say, okay, let's play the reference, and it would be for about like a line or two. It's like, okay, turn it off. But no, I mean it was just a scratch track for reference. So I am playing those songs now live. I actually did a version of one of the songs for the NPR Tiny Desk contest that I sang. I don't know that I would release a version of it singing because I think those are the definitive versions. I think how Kate sings them are the way those songs were meant to be sung. Yeah. So now I kind of interpret those songs, and now I've learned enough that I kind of interpret them in my way, but not in a way that I think it makes for a different tune to do, so maybe a B-side, maybe a live song, I don't know.
There you go.
Maybe another Tiny Desk contest, maybe your Tuesday afternoon alternative version, but
we are about to have you play some stuff, so that there is that possibility of a version, you may be so inspired.
It's true. You never know. I'll tell you one thing that was inspiring about getting to write songs I was really happy with, but getting to hear them turn out the way that, has kind of pushed me to like work on singing, to work on songwriting, to work on the play, like to keep going, right? So now I never liked playing these songs before, and now I do, you know, and that is because of that experience, right? So that's pretty cool. So if that makes any sense.
Oh, makes total sense.
Well, you haven't heard it yet.
Oh, okay. I can't lie. That is true. That is true. If you're just joining us, you're listening to your Tuesday afternoon alternative on WUDR Dayton. Rockin' the Gem City, music in all directions, support your local music scene. We are so happy today. We have Nick Kazernis here in the studio. His last album, The Distance, is a phenomenal record, one of our favorites from that year. And I was at the album release show, and I was just blown away by the full arrangement. You had Paige up there, you had Kate, right? Of course, you're there. And I was so blown away by, he seems just so happy. Like happiness just kind of exuded from you in a way. I don't know if I was up there releasing a record, which, okay, that would be, that's a dream. But I think I'd be incredibly nervous and anxious. You just seem to radiate joy.
Oh, well, thanks. I think that's how I felt when I for that one. I mean, it was a lot of work and a lot of preparation, and everyone is in different bands and on tours and and doing all that. So it was, but everyone pulled together and did it and did such a great job that by the time we had 2 rehearsals, and I'm like, if I've done these things like rehearse for shows and then a blizzard knocks them out,
Yeah.
And we didn't even know what was coming, right? So we did the second rehearsal, and I'm like, that would be fine. If we didn't play a show, I'd just be so happy that we had that, and we were able to get Paige Beller on it, and I had. I should say, because one of the things I kind of skipped over was that I was in a band with Paige a few years back. And the reason I was in a band with Paige was because I used to go see Jasper the Colossal play, and then I started seeing her play solo, and I was like, oh wow. And at all of these songs, I was just so taken by them, and it took me a little while to finally say hi, and hey, I really enjoy, I guess I said hi before, but to say I really enjoy these songs, and she's like, oh, I'm working on a few more, and she starts sending me these songs, and I'm like, oh my, oh wow, and pretty soon we were working on them together, and we played them for a few years, and this was in the band before she started developing some of them as Space Cadet, and then eventually I'll Be Better. Like some of them made that, and the whole sound that she developed. But I mean, but her songwriting was very inspiring to me as well, right? And to work with somebody who was such a accomplished songwriter and so good, and evoked so many emotions and feelings and stuff, that I was just it really was inspiring to me and motivating. Like, I'm gonna do this, and I still feel. And then she comes out with that album. I'm like, oh. So, but it's great. It's still really. I mean, her work is so. Her songs are so inspiring to me. So that's one of the things that got me it got me moving on this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
It was healthy competition, Nick.
Well, there's no competition. I'm not competing. It's inspiring and motivating. I can't compete. I mean, those are songs I can't. I mean, I was just so happy I got to play some of those songs back in those in those days. It was such a joy to play those songs. So being on stage with her, being on stage with everybody was just so nice to be there. And also, that was the only time that show could happen. That was
Really?
it. That was it. There was no other day that show could happen because of everyone's schedules. We didn't even know what was about to happen. We didn't know that the world was going to go into lockdown.
Right.
But because of everyone's schedules, everybody in that band had to be somewhere else very soon, and so that was it. So it was like, okay, let's do it. So
Because that's what, January of 2020?
that was February 2nd.
February
2nd.
2020.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was the only date we could find, and we made it work. And if any delays, it might never have happened. So
Weeks later, the world went into
Yeah.
complete lockdown.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a sobering thought, right? What if the release show had been delayed? Oh, good grief.
I mean, I think of it. I just say, it would never have happened because it's just hard to get everyone together.
Yeah.
Everyone who, I mean, most everyone in that band was playing, and has other commitments and all that. And it just worked. And so I'm really grateful for that. So,
Awesome. Well, do you think we can get a song from you, Nick?
Oh, I guess we could.
Please.
Okay. All right. So I'll play the Distance. You said I should play that one. So this is the title track to it, and it's Katie Marks made a animated video for this over the summer that was really great, and I'm really happy to say that video is still getting out there and getting plays and making connections with people, and I hear the song and the video of it's just really cool that even though the album's been out for a while and it's taking a long time to do anything with anything, it's really nice that it's like, oh, okay, people are still enjoying it, so yeah. Okay, so this is The Distance. When it was time for you to go, I didn't try to change your mind. We've been through all of this before, and it makes no difference. We could wish each other well. We could say we're still close friends, but we both know that we only share the distance. Tried to help you pack your things, but then I stayed out of your way. After all this time, I know when you need a moment. Like the time you almost cried, I tried to hold you in the darkness. You let me try, but then you told me it'd be alright. Times I tried to figure out the answers, but we've run out of chances. I tried to be the perfect confidant, but we kept too many secrets. Now we only share the distance. Did I imagine what we had? Was this all in my head? I thought it was alright when I told you all my secrets. Now the day is finally here, without a whisper and a warning. You can go and leave me here without you. How many times I've tried to figure out the answers, but we've run out of chances. Tried to be the perfect confidant, but we kept too many secrets. Now we only share the distance. When it was time for you to go, I didn't try to change your mind. We both know that we'll only share the distance.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thanks.
There's a whole Richard Thompson vibe going there.
Oh, well, I'll take that. Richard Thompson's definitely a big influence on me. Guitar playing, I wish. But also how he wrote and delivered songs. I was just, I've seen him so many times and listened to all of his records, and it's just like to hear, like every time I see him play, it's still so inspired. He just knows how to communicate that, and I actually, it took me a very long time to even, I know this might sound weird because like singers are expressive and they, you know, and that, but to even connect to how to do that is not something I've known how to do for very long. And then so like, I'm sure I'm not getting it right, but it's like just learning how to like express something is I mean, and so he is just he's a master of that, and plus plays a fine guitar while he's doing it.
That he does. But your phrasing, your vocal phrasing, really reminded me of Thompson, who I have also seen a million times, whether full band, by himself, trios, you know, and I consider him like a songwriter, just a brilliant songwriter who, whether folk, rock, you know, almost any kind of label you could throw at certain kinds of music, and still is making interesting music today. But the way you were singing and your cadence really reminded me of him.
I think that people on Facebook Live are going to see I'm blushing. I do really like. I mean, well, thank you very much for saying that. It's funny because when I wrote these songs, I did not know how to sing them. When Kate recorded the vocals for these songs, I learned how they could be sung, and so I've learned from that. But I've also been really working on trying to learn how to sing. Period. But that was a really great, like, to be able to have a great reference for how those, like, oh, this is how the song comes out. Has been something that's helped me learn to, like, okay, something I can take on and do. So the Richard Thompson influences, yeah, I'll take that for sure. I think I'll probably work on that this evening. I'll be like, yeah.
You're gonna go take that home with me. Meet me on the ledge or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, and in many ways, I think, like Shoot Out the Lights, right? Richard and Linda Thompson, and you know, songs like Walking on a Wire, where you know Linda has such a powerful, distinctive voice, much like Kate Wakefield has such a distinctive voice.
And I think Linda Thompson is a great example. A lot, like she was someone who influenced me in turn. Like Richard Thompson was an influence, but Linda Thompson was an influence as well, because just how she sang and was just really, to me, just like, wow, that was really amazing. And then, you know, there's songs that they did, like Keep Your Distance, like songs, those songs you're just mentioning are songs that were inspiring to me in my songwriting journey as well, you know. And there's a version of Keep Your Distance that Buddy and Julie Miller do that is just beautiful as well. And it's like, for me, like, I really like that, you know, like a lot of the things that are going on in there, how they express themselves, how they're harmonizing, you know, and not even the very straightforward harmonizing, more reminiscent of like X or something, you know, like, and things like that I really, I really enjoy. So
the way John Doe and Exene Cervenka would almost, she would come in and you'd be thinking, wait, this isn't the part where you should come in, but it works like so brilliantly.
Yeah. It's all in how you tell a song and tell a story, and that was one thing I didn't realize that. Not only I thought, well, I don't sing very well. You know,
well, first of all, you're too hard on yourself.
Well, at the time I was like, I'm definitely not singing very well, and I don't know how to express these, you know, songs. And so by kind of letting go, like, her work on that was a way to get there, you know, and worked really well. So, you know, and now we'll just keep going with that, you know. Hopefully I can keep going with those too. So,
and she is clearly an inspiring vocalist. Right, when you hear Kate sing, you wish you could sing yourself as a frustrated singer over here who can't nearly hold the tune nearly as well as you can, Nick. I remember when you sent the album to me, and I'm like, oh wow, I knew she could sing, but it's like she was so perfectly suited to those songs. It struck me like you wrote the songs for her. And I know you described earlier that's not what you did, but it felt her voice, her vocal presence was so perfect for the songs. It's like you wrote them for her.
Well, it's cool to think that, like, the song, like those songs work, or that was meant to work out like that. That was a really good combination. But also, I mean, it's like just as a professional, brilliant vocalist is able to like take that work and because it's like you kind of hand it over to somebody.
Yeah,
and to elevate it to that point, to make it happen to that point is amazing. So, but that's not inspiration. That's also incredible talent and skill. That's why jaws were dropping right? In the sessions. We're like, oh wow.
So when you were recording, like Patrick knows a thing or two about vocals.
Oh yeah.
Himself. So even he, people in the studio, their jaws dropped and they were like, wow.
Yeah, because it really kind of took things to that next level.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, the sessions were all like that too, because like we didn't rehearse with Todd. Like we just got together and recorded. So everyone was watching it so this whole recording process was like Mark and I, Todd comes into play or Joe comes into play. Patrick adds, bass, Patrick adds keyboards, Kate sings, right? Like those things were, so it was this unfolding the way the sessions were. So like the whole time we're like, oh wow, just look at this ride we're going on. So look at this, we're just going to record a song, 2, 6, 12, 13, and so it was a really neat journey to,
Well, we have to give applause to Patrick then. It worked.
Well, it worked, but I mean, Patrick is like a very accomplished player. He's an accomplished producer and engineer and very inspiring and really great to work with, right? And he gets wonderful sounds out of there. And it's like we were I think we were really capturing that stuff as we recorded it. It's what it sounded like. There wasn't a lot of changes. So there is going to be on one of the songs though, but for that record, it just laid out. It was like, whoom, there it is, and that's really what everybody did. Everyone did that. Everyone came in and just laid it out. So it all worked, and every time it just kept going up and up and up.
Wow.
So neat way to work.
If you can have that, if you can have an opportunity like that, to have creation, it feels to me like it's capturing the proverbial lightning in a bottle, right? You're capturing something magical.
Yeah. It was a really great experience. I mean, it was very different than I've never done anything like that before too. So it was really great to just be able to have that experience and have my friends be there to help and be so supportive and do all that work. That was huge. That's a lot of work.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work. There's a lot of words in this album.
This is WUDR Dayton, rocking the Gem City, music in all directions. Support your local music scene. I'm here with Nick Kazernis, who's talking about his fantastic album, The Distance, which if you don't have or haven't listened to, it's available everywhere you can get music. I'm going to go out on the limb and say you really should buy it. You should support great music when you get a chance. I'm going to give Nick a chance to catch his breath, take some water, and just in case you don't believe us here in the studio, here's Nick telling you you're listening to WUDR.
Oh my God.
Oh, you were such a good interview.
Thanks.
You were awesome.
Oh, thank you.
You were awesome.
You asked great questions.
I don't know about that.
You do. I remember when we did that 11 Things, I think.
Oh, yeah.
That was so good.
And your answers are, well, you're a thoughtful gentleman, and it shows.
Thank you.
And that makes my job a whole lot easier.
Well, you do ask really good questions. So.
Wow.
Sorry.
I shouldn't feign here. Thank you. Very kind of you.
Oh, are we doing a song?
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
Well, I'm doing one just to give you a break from being on air.
I can do the acoustic version of this song.
I think that would be actually really cool. I know some people prefer not to do that in that way, but I think that would be very cool.
Or we can.
And then I wanted to also double check.
We can wait if you want.
He didn't knock on the door, did he? Okay, so
I don't think he's even. Well, I don't know if he's gonna.
Well, and I just wanted to be mindful of that. That hopefully he would let us know if he were here. No. There's nothing worse than the interview where someone gives you like one-word answers, like "yup," so, "nope."
So we are releasing a remix. I sent you the video. Yeah, the remix.
You did?
version.
Yeah.
So that's going to come out probably in summer now. And as you can tell, it sounds a little bit different than this one.
Oh yeah. I
What
noticed
did you
that.
think? Was it?
Well, I mean, I'm very fond of this.
I'm very fond of this version too. But there was something in us was like something else, and my daughter was really.
It was just
pushing me.
really different. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a different mix. I mean, I don't know that I would say better,
It's
worse.
just a different-
It's just a different approach, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's the great thing about music and art. You can change. You can make subtle changes that just it becomes a completely different work of art.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's beautiful.
And that's really what we wanted to do. This version is the version. This
So
is it.
for you,
it's
it's like
perfect.
the, these are the definitive
Yeah.
versions of these songs.
Yeah. But to do that remix was a reimagine or whatever it was a real challenge.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and we just did it. We're like, let's just see what happens. And we were really trying to take like a bedroom pop approach to it.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be sort of like more Flaming Lips than it was. But it was really interesting collaboration because it's got new instruments on it and things like that. And I think I might do something else, maybe not quite so electronic.
Yeah.
With another song.
Well, do you
but-
mind coming in just right into
Sure.
doing an acoustic?
Yeah. Do I need the intro or just play?
I'll just call you in.
Okay.
Mics are hot. Nick Kazernis with Way to Me from the Distance. And this is Nick Kazernis with Way to Me acoustic.
When the starlight shines down on where we stand, no matter how dark it may be, a little glow it might leave within your heart will find its way to me. And if the moonlight brightens the path you walk, no matter how dark it may be, follow that light and know that it won't take long. You'll find your way to me. You'll find your way to me. So many stars will light up your eyes. They'll shine on all that you see. As twilight falls, you'll find them all. Will show you the way to If a satellite catches your weary eyes, no matter how far it may be, follow its trail and you'll finally see the path. You'll find your way to me. You'll find your way to me. So many stars will light up your eyes. They'll shine on all that you see. As twilight falls, you'll find them all. They'll show you the way to me. They'll show you the way to me.
Oh, that's just lovely.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Thanks. It's all this guitar. It's all Patrick Seisenberger's acoustic guitar that he built. So this is one of the ones he's I don't know how many he's built, like 12 now or something like that. But
Wow.
he builds them here in Dayton.
Yeah.
And this is and this one is mine. So I really like it.
It's okay. I know I can't play it, so I'm not going to ask you for it. You don't have to leave it there.
It's the price.
Oh, did no one explain that to you? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Leave the guitar.
There's been a terrible misunderstanding.
You could put it hanging up on the wall.
Well, which would be lovely, but oh, come on, that needs to be played.
Yes. He built. This is Osage for folks on Facebook Live. So and the main sound hole is actually on the side of the guitar.
I know.
And projects upwards. Although
Yeah.
I did make him cut these F holes in it. A lot of guitars he builds has
Just
nothing,
don't have those.
and yet they still project because of the way he builds it. But they're
Wow.
beautiful guitars, and they're very distinctive, and they play. I've been playing them for different guitars he's built for years, and he's amazing. He's just so talented.
It doesn't just play lovely; it looks beautiful.
It does. It looks really nice, and it's like, but the sound of it, I just feel so good when I play it. This is one of the nicest guitars I've ever played. Thank you, Patrick.
Well, so what's on the horizon? Right, we've been talking about the distance, but I know off air we've been talking. What can you share publicly that's coming? Well, I just want to give you.
Let me check and make sure I'm not getting any messages saying. I have a few things. Actually, I just started a mailing list. So over the pandemic, I started writing songs that I thought were, the next songs for the Distance 2 or whatever, And but because you never know what, and it was and that wasn't going really well. So instead, ended up working on an acoustic guitar and cello project that Kate Wakefield and I recorded virtually over the pandemic. And basically, that was like I was just working on I was playing a bunch of Patrick's guitars, trying different tunings, trying different things, and getting away from writing all the stuff that I'd been working on for the 2 or 3 years. And that was a really really cool to write these things and then just say, okay, what do you do? What are you going to come up with for it?
Sure.
What do you hear? There's no directions or anything. And so once that was rolling, I got back to starting to write songs again, and that has turned into a project that has been with a whole nother group of people, and a lot of that recording has been virtual as well. So some in person, some virtual. Some of it sounds like this album. Some of it sounds darker. Some of it sounds more rock. Jim McPherson and I have been working on it. I've been working with Daisy Kaplan from Lung and on it. Been working with Todd Widener again on it. Working with Kate. Working with some other friends as well. People contributing stuff virtually, and then I've been assembling it all at home. And then Patrick and I are going to go record and finish the album. So that's a this year project.
Yeah.
Worked on that this year. We just finished the acoustic guitar and cello album, so that's now in the queue. So that is hopefully going to come out before the end of the year. So I'll probably put out a couple songs and let people hear it, and then that'll come out before the end of the year. And then the new album that I just talked about probably won't make it out till next year because time just keeps flying by, right?
Right.
So it just keeps going. Until then, though, I have always been promoting the Distance, and people keep contacting me. So we just keep doing stuff. So we've got we're gonna do "Way to Me" is gonna be a new single. It's actually gonna be this remixed, sort of reimagined version of the song that I worked on with Patrick, and he played these modular synths on it, and we just basically we had these weird ideas for the song that we never explored, so we kind of flipped the song over and was what's underneath the song, and it was a big experiment. We're going to put that out as a single and a video, and then it's also going to be a limited edition 7-inch that Robin Raymond in Toronto is hand cutting. She's the only woman in Toronto or in Canada that cuts records, hand cuts records. And I came across her because she hand cut 500 records for this band for Christmas last year, and it got her some press. So we talked about doing something together. We're going to do a limited run of those, and that's going to be out, I think, beginning of summer. So I'm excited to work on that.
That's really cool.
She has a nonprofit called Women in Vinyl in the U.S. And it spotlights women who run record labels, studios, all record stores and things like that. So it's been really cool to meet her and work with her on this project. She's been great. So we're doing that. There's probably going to be another single at some point, but I don't know what it is yet. I've had other people talk to me about videos. Maybe, hopefully Sam and Avis, we did the Slipping Away video. Mm-hmm. We keep talking about doing one, but this is all taking a lot longer than I thought. So I can't pretend I'm like, I mean, I have a record that came out 2 years ago, and a lot of people won't talk to me about it.
Oh, because it's
2 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
And okay, but then a lot of people will. They keep reaching out, and I'm like, okay. So if they do, then and I'm just it's nice. It's nice that people are enjoying it and that people are into it, and that I can keep sharing it in different ways because I'm proud of it. You know, I'm happy I did it, and I'm looking forward to the new stuff too. So
and that's got to be so gratifying.
Yeah.
That 2 years later, people are still contacting you and wanting to collaborate in some way.
Yeah. Like the project with Katie Marks was really great to work on a video. That a couple other people like Sam has approached me, and like we've got a couple projects like that. And working with Patrick on the single. Like I like doing those things, and I like we were talking about it before. Like the song "Way to Me," like I love the album version. That's the version. But it was I've never done it. I've done a different version of a song before, let alone like an acoustic version of a song. So I'm enjoying doing those things, and like my daughter keeps reminding me, she's like, "Why not? Why wouldn't you keep doing it? What's keeping you from it?" I'm like, nothing. So I'm doing that, and I'm really happy to say that the Mulchmen, my surf trio, from years ago with Greg Spence and with Brian Hogarth, we're playing again. We're booking some shows, Indiana, Chicago, hopefully in the area, and hopefully working on new material too. So that's nice to be doing that. That's kind of like my band. Like if I have a band, that's like kind of the way that I enjoy doing it the most, I guess. I don't know. So that's been nice to do. But going to do that and do some solo shows. Going to play at Blind Rage Records on the 23rd for Record Store Day.
Awesome.
So I get to play for Record Store Day. So I'm